you ever read the book Frankenstein by, what was her name? Mary Shelley. Sorry, drawing a blank there. In the book Frankenstein, a scientist goes around to graveyards and he's stealing body parts and he stitches them all together to make a person. And then there's a little rampage and the villagers get all scared of him. And, is Frankenstein really a monster or not? That's kind of the whole point of the book. And I'm not going to go there. But in the pen world, we have something called Frankenpens. Especially if you're like me and you get into vintage pens. Sometimes you have, great part from this pen. Oh, not so great part there. And we just sort of moosh them all together and we make a new pen out of them. Or we buy a vintage pen. We're so proud of it. And then we show it to somebody and say, that's not the regulation cap. And I have a Frankenpen for you today. So hopefully this won't be a horror story. Hopefully we won't have the villagers in my little rural town burning my pen to death. Let's take a look at a Frankenpen. And by the way, I am filming the 8th first impression in a row. So I have one more to do and I feel like it's not going to get done because the pens are starting to run together. So if I say anything weird, that would be why. This is a Centropen 570. Or no, is that a 70? 76. 70. They say I should fill those with white crayon for filming purposes. But what's this on the cap? Centropen 5066. Frankenpen. This cap does not go with this pen. Now, I'm going to entitle the video 5270. But just be aware that this is not the regulation cap. Because I think everything else is regulation. It reveals what would you call this nib? Kaweco has a bunch of these. I don't want to say fingernail nib because that's not quite right. Anyway, we'll unscrew this bit. Reveals kind of their typical filling mechanism. This, I don't know if we want to call it a converter really because it's built into the pen. But it has one anyway. And probably an ebonite feed. So let's ink it up and see what it does. I don't think I have any pens writing in green right now. Somebody sent me this little bottle of Diamine Classic Green. So I'm going to ink it up, because I haven't used this ink in a while, with some Classic Green. And it's a first impression, so while I have not written with this pen, since it's vintage, I have cleaned it out. First fill actually went pretty well, but I'm going to do another squirt. So I have run water and a little bit of pen cleaner through it, just to make sure there's no nasties in it. This pen didn't really take a whole lot of cleaning. It was in good shape. Sometimes I have to do a lot of work on these pens. Other times, like this one, they're good the way they are. Move on. So this is a Centropen 5270. I really like this shade of green. Actually, it's a nice dark green, which I always enjoy. So the ink in it is Diamine Classic Green. I almost started to write the name of the ink first, which is why I had to move down a line. Not really a flex nib. I'd be surprised if it's even gold. I'm pretty sure it's a steel nib. But definitely has a little bit of bounce to it. If we test its wetness and flow, I think you can already tell because the 7 is still a little bit wet. This 7. This pen has no trouble keeping up. The smear test. I'm pretty sure we're going to smear. Whoop! And reverse writing. reverse, reverse, reverse. A fairly smooth, kind of dry, extra fine. And finally, the world famous Peer Gustafson test. Struggled a bit on the vertical strokes, but did pretty well on the horizontal and the curlicues. The cap doesn't fit on the best. Posts very well, though. Posting is, yeah, nice and snug. The cap just kind of mushes into place, but when it's not the cap designed for the pen, you know, what do you expect? So, all in all, I think this Frankenstein is pretty safe from getting burned by local villagers. We'll see if it goes on a rampage, but I am very impressed with how it writes. You know, not the most exciting, but a very nice wet with just enough line variation to be interesting. I think whoever Frankenpenned it picked a good cap to go with it. I'm impressed. And here we have a pen that could have gone in the trash that's been brought back to life. Maybe not with authentic parts, but hey, it's an old pen, probably from the 60s or 70s, that's writing again. And I think that's worth it. So that's something to always consider if you're into fixing up vintage pens is, you know, oh, these parts are no good, but I've still got this part that's good from the pen. Save it. You may make a Frankenpen in the future that turns out to be a good little writer. So, of course, this is just a first impression. That means it's exactly that. I haven't had time or experience with the pen to discover what I think in the long term. So, yeah, that'll come down the road as I fill it with more inks and use it in more paper and more writing situations. So in the meantime, I hope that was helpful. Hopefully opened your eyes to what Frankenpens can be. And I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.